Hey folks, today I'd like to talk about self-serve gas. I'm sure that most of you are totally used to paying gas, doing your self-serving, pumping at the station. But I don't know if you remember how it happened, how we got to there. Well, I do, and I think it's important to talk about. And as a side note, it's a precursor. This is a precursor to my plastic bag conspiracy concept, where there's social engineering going on. And this is an example of a previous social engineering going on. Now, you can always ask the question whether or not people are actually planning this out somewhere in the government or in a corporation somewhere. But nonetheless, the facts are there. This is what happens. There's some type of social engineering happening. And it might seem mild, but if we can catch it on the mild things, we have to wonder, is there social engineering happening on a much more serious scale for more important things? And I believe the answer to that is yes. Anyways, let's get back to self-serve gas. I live in Canada, and I don't know if you remember or if you know the comedian team Wayne and Shuster. But in Canada, they were a very popular duo, a straight man and a standard comedic team. But they were famous in Canada for a fair while, and they had specials and whatnot. And at the time the self-serve thing came in, they were pretty much in vogue. They were fairly young, I guess in their mid-40s, I would think, or something like that. Anyways, the commercial that introduced self-serve included this Wayne and Shuster team. And it was rather funny. And the idea is the two guys arrive and there's a beautiful girl in the car next, and they're talking about the self-serving, how much money you save when you self-serve. And while one of the comedians goes off to pay the bill and comes back and says, so how much money do you save? And the other guy has managed to get into the other girl's car, and he says, well, enough for a dinner for two. And it was quite a cute little commercial. I remember it very well. And so that's how self-serve was introduced. It was a deal. At that point, full-service stations were the vogue. That was what's going on. That was natural, standard procedure. So the self-serve was brought in to be lesser cost than full service. Well, this went on then for a while. A few stations here and there tried the self-serve. So I guess here at this point they were trying out the idea, see if it would go by. And people seem to buy into this idea of be willing to pump if they're saving some money for it. But at some point that changed. Instead of saving money at the pump, after several years, all of a sudden the cost of self-serve gas was standard, and you paid more if you wanted full service. I don't know if you remember that. But that's how it happened here in Canada. I don't know what's going on in the States or other places and how they advertise and change it, but that's what happened here. All of a sudden, the self-serve gas had crept up, the price had crept up to the point that it was really the price of regular gas, not a cheap price anymore. And then they had the price for getting service as a much more expensive price. So then after that, the next transition was there was no full service anymore. It wasn't even offered as an option. And now self-serve is the standard, and there really isn't any full service stations. But if you go, I'm sure you can find it. Mr. Gas was usually full service, I seem to remember, around here. I don't know if they still are, but there's very, very few places where self-service is available. And if it is a way that they're using to try to attract your business instead of being the standard. And of course, you can see why they would want to do self-service. Because self-service means they have to spend less money. They can serve more customers at the same time, right? One person can activate 12 pumps. It's just a press of a button. And so you can serve 12 customers instead of serving one with the gas. So you can make more sales. Incidentally, something else happened at the same time as this was going on. There was another type of change happening internally, the places selling the gas. And at some point in the past, they were receiving a really large amount, well, comparatively a large amount of money per liter or per gallon. That's the other thing they did too, right? It used to be gallons, and it shifted over to liters. So then there was a price per liter, and I don't know if you remember that, how they did that changeover. So what was going on is that they were charging more or giving more per gas to the people in the gas stations. I heard at some point, I have no idea who this was and what company it was, but they were getting something like 9 cents a liter or a gallon. But by the time the self-serve was fully ensconced in our society, people were receiving a fraction of a penny per liter. So you had to sell large quantities of gas to make any money, and realistically the only way you could make money is if you have a convenience store to make sales to people when they come in and pay for their gas. So there was a big changeover in the industry and reducing costs. There's no question about that, and it was multifaceted. There were different ways that they were going after this. But I do see the self-serve gas thing as a social engineering technique, a precursor perhaps to more complex technique. Anyways, that's it. I just wanted to touch base with that, and I appreciate your comments on what I'm saying. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me that it was social engineering, I'd love to hear your what you think about it. And do keep in mind this is a precursor to the plastic bag conspiracy, which I will be making a video about shortly. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed it.